worried about the end of the world. You look back at history, and whenever you start having a few small wars, they keep getting more and more small wars, and the next thing you know, we've got a big war. And I'm not suggesting it's going to happen ever, if it is, but I am worried. They both are saying the right things. They both seem to be doing the right things. Talk is cheap. And unfortunately, when these small wars start, they sometimes are very hard to end. Yes, I hope we can end it. The markets want to end it. Markets are going up because they want it to end. Mr. Trump has had difficult relations with many people in his history. Somebody will have to give up something, but it seems that enough people want to give up something to get this peace that it could happen. But oh my gosh, we're talking about history. We're talking about egos. We're talking about emotions. And unfortunately, when people start slapping each other, it's sometimes difficult to stop, whoever is doing the slapping. That's how these things get bigger and bigger. If somebody has some bluster, then somebody else has some old bluster. And the next thing you know, people are saying, my God, how did we get into this stupid war? But here we are. I don't see any reason that Denmark should give up Greenland. I don't see any reason that America should have it. But who cares what I think? Because you get enough emotions and egos involved, and people start doing it. For many people, it came out of the blue when Trump said, we deserve to own Greenland. I mean, most Americans couldn't find Greenland on a map, much less know why we should have it. But here we are. I hope that Greenland sits there as part of whatever it wants to be, and I hope we stay out of it. I'm certainly not in favor of illegal anything, including illegal immigration. The Canadians know it, the Mexicans know it, and the Americans know it, so I hope we can stop it. It'll be good for a while, if they can stop it. The problem is, a lot of people want to come to the U.S., legally or illegally, and I don't know how you solve that problem. I mean, do you want to be rich in the United States, or do you want to be poor in Mexico? Most people would say, I'll be rich anywhere. I don't want to be poor anywhere. I don't know how you give everybody enough prosperity that they stay home. If we deport everybody, that will set an example, and that might do it. But it's a serious problem. It's been going on for a long, long time, many years. It didn't start yesterday. And we either have to open our borders to more immigrants, or we have to throw them out. And so far, nobody wants to open the borders. By the way, nearly everybody in America is an immigrant or descendant of an immigrant. But that's not what we think about at times like this. Historically, for the last couple of 100 years, everybody was anti the immigrants. You know, the English were anti the Irish when they came. And then everybody was anti the Italians when they came. And then there was a whole period when, oh my God, not more Germans. This goes on for, even though we're all descended from immigrants, but nobody cares because other people would not let them in. But it doesn't happen just in the U.S., it happens everywhere in the world. If you go back and look at American history, you know, in the 1840s, they were shrieking about the Irish. They were shrieking about the foreigners coming to the U.S. In the 1870s, they were shrieking about the Germans. We've always had this situation because America has been a place where people wanted to be. And if people want to be somewhere, they usually figure out a way to go. 19th century, they all came. We didn't even try to stop them. We complained, but Washington didn't do much to try to stop them. So we had a lot of immigrants and we had great prosperity. But, you know, there was an act in, 1872, 1882, I guess. There was the Chinese Exclusion Act, where this law specifically said no more Chinese can come to America. Now, when the Second World War came, they abolished that act and said, oh, we need more Chinese to fight the Japanese. So these things have come and gone throughout history. And unfortunately, all of us, not just Americans, everybody gets emotional. And that leads to the problems. Anything that can bring peace and prosperity is a good idea on paper. Paper is different from human beings because you can tell human beings, okay, let's all be friends. Let's all get rich together. And everybody says, yes, let's do it. But then when you start looking out the window and you see these strangers that you don't know, you don't like them. And if things go wrong, you think it's because of the foreigners. Whenever a country has problems, the first thing the politicians is blame the foreigners. Now, if and when we could all sit around and drink coffee together, we like the foreigners. But until that happens, and that's hard to get, everybody blames the foreigners for the problems. If you ask me, it's an absurd. Look at a map. You see what Gaza is? You see what the U.S. is? Of course, we can send thousands of troops and guns and airplanes. It costs us a fortune, kills a lot of us, and it probably will not work in the end. But that doesn't mean they won't try it, because the people will say, oh, we're the best in the world. And everybody will say, yes, we're the best in the world, so let's do it. But the problem is, it's not easy, especially with Gaza, which is thousands of miles away. Yes, I have sold my U.S. stocks, and fortunately or unfortunately, fewer and fewer stocks are going up now, which is usually the sign at the end of a bull market that the number of advancing issues gets smaller and smaller, and that's happening now, which to me confirms that we're getting close to the end. I am certainly the worst market timer in the world, so don't ask me. I own gold, I own silver, I will probably buy more silver soon. I've heard these kind of stories before. I've been investing in precious metals for decades, and every time we get a good rally going, these stories recur. Whether it's Chicago or London, wherever it is, the same stories recur, that you cannot get delivery or delivery is delayed, whatever. I have no idea if the stories are accurate or not, but I know I've heard them before. Gold is at an all-time high. Silver is down nearly 40 or 50% from its all-time high. So I would buy more silver instead of gold. But energy is down from its all-time high, down fairly substantially. So yes, I would rather buy it than sell it. You know when energy's booming, gosh, we all know. We go to the gas station, if nothing else. So energy, yes, is a place that one should examine and explore. Most commodities are down fairly substantially from their all-time highs. So I had rather be investing in real assets like commodities rather than U.S. stocks. U.S. stocks are going through the roof. Commodities aren't. When there are problems in the economy, central banks will print more money, and they will say it's good for us, but it will be mainly good for commodities. You'll see the price of real assets going. They always have. First of all, your spouse is going to start complaining about the prices going higher, whether it's for gasoline or for sugar, whatever it is. Everybody's going to be complaining. Cost of living is going to go higher. It's going to get harder to stay solvent. Everybody's going to complain to the government. The government's going to try to solve the problem, and we'll have more problems. America had the longest period in our history without a stock market problem, without an economic problem, since 2009. Never lasted this long in our history. Now, maybe it's going to last forever. Maybe Washington has solved all of our problems. I don't buy it. And when you start blaming the foreigners, maybe you start trade wars, but eventually some of those trade wars turn into shooting wars, real wars. I mean, this has been going on for a few thousand years. You and I are not the first to notice what's happening. Do I like it? No. Do I approve? No. But that's human beings. We have had many times in history and anywhere in the world where they try to control the yield curve. Yes, yield curve is important. They will try to adjust yields as they see fit. There will be the attempt, and some of it will be successful. But usually that involves money printing or some kind of money control, and that usually leads to inflation. In my view, the market is smarter than all of us and all of them, but that's not the way Washington sees it, or politicians see it. Washington thinks they're smarter than everybody else. I know the market's smarter than all of us. They don't see it that way. I just want to say again, be careful. I know that we've had the longest period in our history without a problem in the stock market. And I would be very, very happy if it's going to last forever. But I know it never has. And I don't like it. And I know that when things start going wrong, first of all, they blame the foreigners. And then they start trying to fix it. And that nearly always leads to worse problems. In my view, we will continue to have bear markets. But in my view, the next bear market we have is going to be the worst in our lifetime, because you remember 2008, we had a serious bear market because of too much debt. My gosh, since 2009, the debt has skyrocketed, not just in the U.S. I look at and I'll say to myself, how can they do that? Can't they read? But they think they can solve the problem by making the problem worse. So be worried, be prepared. That's the best advice I can give.